Welcome to episode 230 of the GardenDC podcast. In this special episode, we first hear from three members of the garden media, Marianne Willburn, Louise Clarke, and Peggy Riccio, who share their thoughts and opinions about the Philadelphia Flower Show 2025. In the second half, we're joined by PHS's Andrew Bunting, who fills in some background and information about the show. In this special episode of GardenDC, we are discussing 2025 Philadelphia Flower Show. The theme is Gardens of Tomorrow. It runs March 1st through 9th at the Philadelphia Convention Center in downtown Philadelphia, PA. I am joined by
Marianne Willburn,
Louise Clarke, Peggy Riccio.
And we're going to talk about the press preview we attended and our impressions of the show. So let's talk about that theme first, Gardens of Tomorrow. And what does that even mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. It would be really hard if you were a designer trying to come up with something that epitomized that theme easily. I mean, it doesn't immediately jump out at you. You think futuristic, or is it going to be more naturalistic? It could be, and we saw both of those today, right?
We saw a lot of future fantasy things.
Yeah.
But then there was one exhibit that I liked where it looked like there were clotheslines of white laundry hanging up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was actually supposed to represent the children of today who were in gardens. And I really like that exhibit.
I love that one.
That one was a little bit difficult for me, but I am a horticulturist, so I'm really there for the plants. But Gardens of Tomorrow, I was waiting for the Jetsons or AI.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was an AI something or other. I just can't. It didn't make a big impression on me, but I do remember seeing.
And I remember seeing that there was a picture of supposedly an AI generated background of a meadow, and then in the foreground was pansies or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had pansies and tulips in the prairie garden. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I loved that big open clothesline thing because I love clotheslines and I wish more people would use them. Mm-hmm. But in the flower show, I had a hard time putting together what they were saying the garden was about. I thought it was a very stunning.
But it belongs in the
visually arresting.
Yeah, it was visually arresting, and I liked it. But
I want them to preserve it, lift it up, and put it in some
I agree.
I agree. That's a great idea.
That was one of my favorite the display gardens too. So that was Apiary Studios, and that was several clothing lines with white shirts, white socks. They weren't actually material; it was some type of vinyl or something. So they stayed stiff in the breeze.
Called grass stains, right?
Grass stains. Yeah. And it was talking about the future, but not too much, as Louise said. So, I agree with Louise that when I heard the theme Gardens of Tomorrow, I expected the Jetsons coming in the door. I expected to come in and there will be drones flying overhead, dropping rose petals or something.
That would have been fun.
And I always have a super open mind coming into the Philadelphia Flower Show because you never know how people are going to interpret that theme. So let's talk about some of our favorite of the displays. So whether they were with the theme or not, which ones that we enjoyed and would maybe pick up some tips from. I'm going to start with you, Marianne.
Oh, yeah, definitely my favorite. And I think a couple of you are going to disagree with me, but that was Tree Line Designs. And I'm going to pronounce the name wrong, but Ishihara Kazuyuki were the designers on that. And it was called Tomorrow's Eden. And it was so beautiful. But it was very much a natural, like a mangrove situation. It was roots. It was all about roots, waterfalls, water. They had a little fog machine on the water to give you that sense of quiet and
it was knotted roots held above the water line.
That's the other one.
Yeah,
there were two roots, two totally different studios doing those, and that one I just thought, wow, that was visually arresting. Mm-hmm. Horticulturally, I don't know, Louise can weigh in on that, but it was more just the show aspect of it. It could have belonged to Chelsea. You know, it was that type of just big time show garden.
How about you, Peggy? Favorite exhibit?
Okay, it's called Outdoor Living by Irwin Landscaping, and the reason why I liked it is because they were raised beds. They were actually like rectangular containers, metallic, and of course they had lots of vegetables in them. So it was outdoor living with a table, chairs, and then surrounded by these raised beds of all these vegetables. And it showed how you could be outdoors with vegetables and flowers and things like that. And I just really liked it because it inspired me to create something like that for myself.
And I think it was more realistic.
It's very realistic. And futuristic part of it, or what was the theme again?
Gardens of Tomorrow.
Gardens of Tomorrow is because that could be a garden.
Was that the one with the roses and the azaleas? I didn't find that.
To go to the back corner to the educational sections.
Oh, yeah.
To look who's there. So institutions like the Mercer County Community College. New this year that I saw was the Lankenau Environmental Science Magnet High School. The Saul Ag High School in Philadelphia always puts on a good presentation, but I have to give credit to Temple University. And their, I don't remember the name of their exhibit, but I think it's done really well. And I had to be partial because I am a Temple grad, but their longtime professor, Mike Laforno, heads that up. So that's a cooperation between the landscape architecture students and the horticulture students at Temple to put that together. They use a lot of repurposed materials every year. I know what they use and what they repurpose. So it's really, to me, it's an imaginative reuse of what they have. So again, they were using plants, water. It was a walkthrough exhibit, so you can get ideas. Like, is that the garden of the future? Could be, I guess.
They always do a good walkthrough.
Yeah.
You know, and that is very engaging for the public.
And they have more take this home type of ideas where they'll have like some reusable pavers that you can pick up, you know, rainscape type programs. This year I think there was more use of in the education exhibits. Aquaponics I don't think I've seen that too much at the flower show before. I remember one many years ago with this giant tub of trout, I think, inside that I took many pictures of. And also solar. So there was more use of solar and those types of things in the education exhibits, which was good to see.
Well, speaking of retrofitting and repurposing, the Susan Cohen garden in the Field of Vision, that was the one with the silo that was sort of the she shed in the back of the community garden with the very small water features that also had galvanized piping that had been turned into container gardens. I thought that was an incredibly restful, beautiful space. That was a very, very beautiful design, I thought.
Susan Cohen, who's been a past guest on the GardenDC podcast talking about design, always hits it out of the park. She always has something that you can immediately say, I want that. Like, who doesn't want that she shed?
Silo
in the back of their garden full of pillows.
Would that be a she silo?
A she silo.
In the back.
But it's just a long, narrow garden, too.
Yeah.
It was an interesting shape compared to what it usually is. And usually she has like a courtyard type garden. It's some type of enclosure.
That's right.
Like some type of, thing that walls it off. And this one was more open.
Yes, but she did screen it with some sort of, it wasn't a screen, but it was like a what would you call it, a large not fabric. I don't know what it was, but it was
screening.
It was some type of screening that stopped the ice. And that's so important in that space because the convention center is brutal for photos. There's lights everywhere you look, and one exhibit goes into the next, and it's good if you can enclose these. And the more enclosed you feel in these exhibits, the more I like them. It's always how I am.
Between the concrete floor and the giant fluorescent lights, it's a rough, harsh environment in there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say my favorite exhibit I found in the front right corner. It's called Welcoming Wildlife Home. Jennifer Designs. I'm not familiar with her, but I will definitely be checking her work out. Mullicle Hills, New Jersey. And I don't know if you guys got to it. It looks like a white cabin, and there is a dinner party going on. Could be a luncheon or brunch. And there are fantastical woodland creatures in this. Yeah. And a giant fluffy squirrel, a frog, a bee, but it was just like nature taking over on steroids. And she had an interactive poster where you said what your wildlife personality was. And I found out, Marianne, that I'm a squirrel. I didn't think I was a big squirrel fan. Oh, and Louise got some great pictures of the squirrel in the exhibit. So picture a life-size squirrel made out of plant materials.
Bigger than life.
The squirrel is energetic, playful, curious, and independent. But I love the struggles with dogs, nut thieves, and slow movers.
Yes, certainly true.
But everybody was engaging with this poster of Find Your Wildlife Match. And so I thought that
spirit
was great.
animal?
I guess that's my new spirit animal.
Mine's a Wolverine.
We'll have to get into that some other time. But this was like the fantasy exhibit that took it way over the top. And that's what I look to for the flower show is like, I can go to any showroom and see showcase gardens at many different shows, but you're not going to see this at many other shows. This person spent a lot of time. Very clever, very fun. Children of all ages, I'm talking 1 to 101, are going to be like, this is the garden I want to play in. And we're joined by Louise's puppy, Mojito. And Mojito's going to be chiming in every once in a while, but he's playing with a basket of bones because he was like, I want to move into that wildlife garden too. So
one of the things that I know that Peggy and I both loved was in the Roots exhibit, which also had a pond, had these stumps that were above it, but it was playing the very, very light sound of the spring peepers, which is one of my favorite. It is probably my favorite sound of spring above all others, and it's so early in spring in those little wetland areas that you drive by on your way home at night, and temperatures and those little peepers are going, and that was cool. And normally I wouldn't like sound in exhibits, but I really did like that. Another one was playing music. Mark Cook. They were playing music, they were relaxing one in that sort of tropical, and I liked that, but I don't know, music can be very personal. I remember going to a garden in France once where you walked in and this this French man saying "Je t'aime," and all this sort of.
That sounds good to me.
I know. But it just sort of took you out of the garden and into this, what you thought of the music. So you have to be careful with sound, don't you?
I think that it's good for setting mood, though.
Yeah.
It did. It set the mood. And it reminded me of when I was in Puerto Rico and we were listening to the Cookie Little Frogs at night. And that was very relaxing. It brought back good memories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think there was, at the front exhibit, there was a little bit of bird song going on.
Yeah, there was. There was bird
and it kind of transitioned you as you came in. So we skipped right by that front exhibit because we were like, oh, yeah, it's a lot of color. It's big flowers.
A lot of color.
But I don't know that it left that much of an impression on anybody here.
No, so were those kind of archery LED illuminated ribs?
They looked like PVC pipes or something.
That was the futuristic part, I guess. No.
But then when you go down, you see all those orchids in containers and hanging.
Oh, with the water splashing down over them.
That was very cool. I really liked that. And then on the left, there was a lot of other flowers in globes hanging. I don't know what the flowers were because it was too far away to see, but they were red and they were all hanging. That was really nice, too. I did like the front entrance, I have to admit. I did like it.
I think they splashed out on the color because, as we talked to Andrew Bunting about, there had been complaints about where are the flowers at the flower show. And some years, because it's not enough color, not splashy enough, it really has to make a huge impact.
Last year was really flower forward, I would say. It was pretty crazy flowers. But then it was United by Flowers, right? So.
It was United by Flowers.
And we have to remember, it's a floral show. It is a horticultural show, but it's a flower show.
And it does have flower show in the name, even though the theme is Gardens of Tomorrow. So there are many exhibits which are florists and floral designers, so not necessarily gardeners or garden designers. So you'll see, insane mixes of material, crazy different color combinations. And so I do appreciate the artistry in a lot of those. There was a piano covered in plant materials that was really beautiful. That I saw a lot of people made a beeline to this beautiful covered piano.
Yeah, I sent that picture to my husband. I said, when our worlds collide, because he's got a 9-foot grand piano that I can't get him off of most of the time. And there's our two worlds colliding, flowers and piano.
So Marianne sent it to her husband, and Peggy says she also sent a photo of that to her husband.
I did, because it was probably the only thing floral that he would recognize.
Yeah, but maybe they're onto something. Flowers and music. Maybe that could be next year's theme of something, or talking about sound.
That would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned, Peggy, a little bit about the orchids in the front exhibit. I always have to go to Waldorf Orchids because they always just have something over the top. And this year it was a carnival, and it was a small roller coaster, like a child's roller coaster, and each of the cars was filled with a different color orchid. So there was like 50 pink orchids spilling out, 50 white orchids spilling out, like a yellow car, orange car, contrasting color cars to the orchids themselves. So they did a very, very different display from what Waldorf has done in the past. Like sometimes it would look like a rainforest or coming across the orchids in nature. This was not at all that. So what did you think about that, Louise?
Forest, or they used the orchids exquisitely. So this was kind of a fun, different take. So I think for Waldorf, that was great futuristic.
And I'm looking at Susan Cohen Gardens. The name of her exhibit was Field of Vision 25/50. So I guess that would be 25 years in the future.
Yeah, we're talking about needing more shade, community space, rather than a community garden place. Except who gets to sit and be in the she silo? Whose is that? You know, somebody. It looked like it was a very personal space.
Yeah, and in a wording description, she says Philadelphia will be in 25 years fully Zone 8. Wow.
Oh, maybe it's because the USDA zone happened. Yeah, they got warmer.
We're needing more shade, more shelter, and that more people are living in urban environments, so looking for those green environments.
Right, there was no shade in that garden, though. Which
just
is
the
interesting.
silo.
It was just the silo.
That
you could have sat
created the shade.
underneath it. Yeah. But the garden was very open. The water was there as sort of a cooling feature.
So let's move on to some of the Plant Society displays. Did you get to any of those? And they're always fun to see. The Cactus and Succulent Society went to town, and it was like every member brought every cactus and succulent out of their collection. That was a stuffed full display, and stuffed in more than one way. It had every stuffed version of a succulent that you could purchase, like a stuffed animal cactus, stuffed animal succulents, in kind of a arch over the top of their exhibit.
Did you see this one?
No, I did not. So
Mellow cactus? Never seen that before. Absolutely.
So Marianne is showing us a picture of what looks like barrel cactus, but it's not, with an orange button on the top.
Oh, if I had grown that specimen, I would be so proud of myself for the rest of my life. I'd never have to grow anything ever again if I'd grown that. That is just so beautifully done.
The show.
That was in the Horticourt, Yeah. And so, and I don't know if those they hadn't been judged yet because Louise was walking around still. So
yeah, so we have to say that Louise was judging some of this year's.
Yes,
so I don't know if you can comment on that.
I was a special panel judge looking specifically at rock garden plants, which has pretty broad distribution, so that could include small conifers, deciduous plants, hostas, things you might not necessarily think of as rock garden, but the categories are pretty loose. It also includes primulas, and in years past there's been a member of the Delaware Valley chapter of North American Rock Garden Society, John Ray, who lives down in Chestertown, Maryland. And he's been an amazing exhibitor. If you've been to the show, you've seen his troughs, his primulas, his plants. He cleans up. He takes home every ribbon and rosette. So unfortunately this year his health would not allow him to enter any plants. I know the public is going to miss seeing his work, and I miss seeing his work there.
Yeah.
But then again, there are others who are starting to take up the slack. So there were some, I assume, are younger exhibitors who did have a few troughs and some rock garden plants. So there is variety there for you to see. It's just not quite as spectacular as it would have been.
So we're talking about the famous Hamilton Horticourt, which is the plant competition section. and I literally ran through. I mean, literally ran from one side to the other. Took a few snaps of the forest daffodils, a few of the terrariums. I did notice many more of the miniatures and terrariums were entered than previous years. Usually it was like 3, maybe 5, and it looked more like a dozen this year. So I was happy to see those were increasing.
There were a lot of terrariums, and there were gorgeous Wardian cases. Did you see those?
Yeah.
Just beautiful Wardian cases. And there's just so much to see there that actually one day is not enough.
No.
It's just not enough. I didn't see it all.
It did remind me and nudge me that I need to get going on my Clivia collection. Did you see? I mean, every time, and Chelsea had a huge collection of Clivia 2 years ago, and I, at that time, thought, I need to start collecting more of these. They're fantastic houseplants, incredible bloomers, just in-your-face stunning, and they had a really nice show of them there today in all different colors.
They did stop me in my tracks.
Cool.
I took a picture of that category. It was all in bloom and in-your-face, yellows and oranges. Can't miss them.
It's Clivia, Clivia. Get some or be square.
Or as many people say,
Clivia?
Clivia.
What would be Clivia, right?
It is Clivia. It is after Mr. Clive.
So thank you very much for this.
But yes, so I think the plant societies, I love the fern display, but I think the African violets were gorgeous. They were wonderful this year.
Were nice.
They really did a great job. And what I loved was they had a little take a leaf and make a new plant sign where it went step by step how to make a new African violet plant. And I was like, please don't literally take a leaf off this exhibit because it almost is telling you to do that. But I thought that was great education because I feel like so many people think African violets are difficult, and I find them to be the easiest of houseplants.
They're very easy to grow. And I didn't see that, but it's too bad you couldn't take a leaf. I mean, wouldn't that be great if you could just take a leaf? That would be great.
I'm sure if you asked some of them, they would be happy to share a leaf.
It is hard to walk past all those begonias and not want to take a leaf.
Well, there is the whole side of the show, the marketplace, where we can take all the plants home that we want to purchase. And we, in our short time there, we still did some shopping. So anything special caught anybody's eyes?
Peony Envy. I walked past there, looked at all of their peonies in the very beginning, and then thought, no, Marianne, you're not going to do that. You're going to the gala tomorrow, so just don't even think about it. And then when I heard them say, ladies and gentlemen, the show is closing in 15 minutes, I thought, I'm just going to run over there and just go over and see. And sure enough, I came back with 2 Bowl of Beauty, which I've wanted for a long time, and one of Bowl of Beauty's seedlings, which is Cheddar Charm, yeah. Both of which are nice anemone. One's a single, one's an anemone. No, actually, they're both anemones. And so they stand up. They don't flop. And that's big time important in my garden because it's just me, myself, and I running around with stakes.
And you can't go wrong with peonies.
No, it's hard. It's hard to. I did say no to Festiva Maxima, which I actually would like to have one in my garden again for the scent, but it's such a pain in the butt plant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still beautiful, though.
Oh, the scent.
How about you, Peggy? Anything in the marketplace?
There actually were so many things that I wanted to buy. I was really surprised that there were a lot of things, a lot of cutesy gardening and horticultural plaques and stickers and things like that I wanted to buy. But I restrained myself, and I just got the T-shirt for the year.
And you bought something for your family.
Yes, I did, but that's a surprise gift for a non-gardener. They did have a really nice selection of honeys, and herbs and chocolates.
Vinegar.
And vinegar. It's, if you were not a gardener, you could still find something there.
Oh, yeah. All the edible gifts that you could ask for are there. I mean, from chocolates to, I think there was a local ginger company. I was pleased to see. How about you, Louise? Any gardening shopping?
No, I didn't get a chance. So what is cocktail bombs?
I did not get there.
I did not get to that one yet. No.
No.
We'll have to check that one out. I did stop by Kremp's, the world famous Kremp's
Yeah, the
florist, and I said, I'm coming back a second time to the show, so I'll get my roses then. But it was tough not to leave the show without an armful of roses.
No, I just realized that I forgot to buy my broom. I buy a new broom every year. You know that guy who has the brooms that are the really high fiber, you know the one that they look very rustic? They're fantastic for sweeping bricks.
Yep.
And they're always they're like $20. They're pretty cheap. They last a couple years. They always give you a little hand whisk as well. And mine is finally giving up the ghost. And that was the one thing I was supposed to buy. And I went and bought 2 peonies. I totally forgot. The listeners, do not be stupid like me. Go and buy the broom.
You're going to have to make your own broom.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things I explored this year that I'd never done in all my years at the flower show was Butterflies Live. I was a docent for many years at Brookside Gardens, Wings of Fancy. And so I was like, I've been there, done that. I've interacted with some butterflies. But this was fun. They gave us, the garden media had a couple free passes. So I went back to the room. You go behind the curtain and they give you a little Q-tip with some nectar on the tip. And they encourage you to interact with the butterflies, which is interesting to me because at Wings of Fancy at Brookside Gardens, we were not encouraged to interact with butterflies. You look with your eyes, touch with your eyes, we respect the butterflies. So this one was much more interactive, but I got some incredible photos out of it.
And let's not forget.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our flower crowns, which was part of the PHS had given us the ability to make these flower crowns to work from DIY weddings, which was in the back in the sort of make it yourself court. And well, that was so much fun. I had never, I put together Christmas wreaths all the time with little tiny bouquets, putting them on there, but that never occurred to me to do that around your head with little tiny bouquets. I would have been just like putting the whole thing on there. It would have been terrible. So that was fun. And wore it most of the day. It started to get a little hot and heavy at the end of the day.
But you got compliments on it all day
Oh,
long.
I did.
People were talking to you about it all day long.
Yeah, I had people at the very beginning coming and wanting to know where I got it and all of that. So that was a very fun. I tried to get Peggy to do it. She refused. I said, but you've got to do the stuff.
Peggy needs to get a flower crown next year.
Yeah.
I did wear, I got a purple and green one. Same thing. Lots of compliments when you walk around. I hope that it dries well, because I'd like to keep it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We'll have to think about that. Mine might. Wax flowers, chrysanthemum, Drosophila. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, a fun thing to do and walk around the show and have a little memento. Mojito did not get a flower crown, unfortunately.
No, he did not.
No.
He had to be at home all day. Poor guy. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. They had really expanded that back area for children and for... so that if you bring your family or your dog, then there's plenty for them to do. All sorts of activities, and you'd have a good time.
Yeah.
So it's also, I haven't been in a couple of years, but that Great Garden Grow, was it Great Garden Grow Along?
Great Grow Along.
And they have, I guess they have educational sessions
Yep.
there.
So they brought back last year the speaking program, and so there's many more speakers every day of the show, and then the Great Grow Along has taken over the last weekend, the Friday through Sunday of the last 3 days of the show, and PHS is programmed, I think, the rest of the speakers, and there's also a members lounge with a separate speaking program for PHS members, and I think Teri Speight is going to be speaking at that. I'm going to be speaking on the last day of the show, March 9th, on deer and garden mammals and humanely dealing with them.
Jack Russell Terriers.
And still having a garden. But yeah, so that edition was great to see, to have that back. And then, aside from that education, of course, there's all the show information and plant people booths on the show floor that are kind of Ask Me booths. So we have some friends that are volunteering with those. So if you have any gardening, plant question, house pet question in the world, these, I'm going to say mostly ladies, a few men, are ready there to answer your questions. Have you ever worked in that volunteer capacity, Louise?
I have not.
Yeah, Peggy's a great resource to have at the show.
Another great resource to have at the show is the Hendrick's gin booth.
I saw that.
And I was very pleased to see that. I was just very sad that it was about 11 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can't wander around with a gin and tonic in my hand and be sensible.
Some do.
Yeah. A little later.
But see, there's so much to do there. You have to go there several days, get it all.
And actually, the Reading Terminal Market, which is one of the best reasons to go to the show, honestly, to leave and go and have so many choices to eat. And my very favorite thing to have there is in the back corner at a Thai restaurant. It's a salmon curry, and it is amazing. I have it every year, and the line stretches around, but there was no line this time. It was amazing.
That's good. Yeah, so the Reading Terminal Market is diagonal from the convention center. You should get your hand stamped should you leave, because you want to be able to get re-entry back onto the flower show floor. There's a spice cellar, there's Amish bakeries there, there's a butcher, there's local ice cream. Of course, you can get your Philly cheesesteak there.
Chocolate.
Coffee.
Good
Yeah.
coffee.
So I think we all here recommend leaving the convention center and having your lunch or whatever your meal break is over at the Reading Terminal.
Yeah, even if you just get it and bring it back and eat it, and I think you can do that, right? You can
Yes.
bring your food in.
Yeah, you're totally allowed to bring your own food from home if you want to pack a lunch, but treat yourself to something at the Reading Terminal.
Yes, because you do not want to do what I did, which is to pay $6 for a vending machine water, which was not marked $6, let me just say. I found out afterward.
Well, there are bottle filling stations all over the floor and water fountains and a coat check.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to pay for your own bottled water. All right, any final thoughts on Gardens of Tomorrow?
Do we know the theme for next year?
We don't know next year's theme. We can speculate, make up some things, but I think we'll go with what we saw this year. Do we think it inspired anybody to think about the future of their garden?
I don't really think it matters what the theme is, because I'll always want to go because it's such a great breath of fresh air and a great mental health break. It really is a lot of fun. It doesn't matter what the theme is.
I agree, Peggy. I think it's the kickoff to spring.
Right.
And for us, this is Disneyland.
It is. It's like Disneyland.
It is. And I have to say, I'm very partial to the country themes that they've done in the past. When they had Holland, they had England, they had Paris.
I thought you meant
ones.
like hee-haw country.
No.
I was like,
when
was there a country
When they
theme?
did the national parks, when it was
Yes.
when it was a thing, because it feels like you're wandering through going chapter to chapter in a book. It's like, what are these people going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And they're all going to be different, but they're all around a very coherent, strong theme. I love that. I really enjoy that. I look forward to that in the future if it happens again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Louise?
I don't know. Like the themes seem kind of nebulous. Gardens of Tomorrow, and you could interpret that pretty much any way you wanted, which I think I saw examples of. But I'm already outside gardening, and I'm starting seeds. So we've actually had winter this year, with some freezing days and some snow that's lasted. So, like Marianne said, this is a breath of fresh air. So spring's right around the corner. So bring it on.
Thank you, ladies. GardenDC will be back after this short break.
Get low-maintenance alternatives to lawns with Groundcover Revolution by Kathy Jentz. Reducing the lawn is among the biggest trends in homeownership, with an endless stream of homeowners looking for an eco-friendly alternative to a traditional turfgrass lawn. In the last few years alone, over 23 million Americans converted part of their lawn to a natural landscape, and now they're looking to do even more. The biggest challenge to adopting this new ideal of the perfect lawn? Knowing how and when to replace your turf, and which plants are the best ones for the job. Groundcover Revolution is here with all the answers you need, and some you didn't even know you needed. Included are 40 in-depth profiles of plants that are perfect choices for replacing a grass lawn. There are options for sun, for shade, for dry and wet sites, and for various climates around the globe. There are choices that bloom, options that are evergreen, and selections that are deer-resistant. Kathy Jentz has also included an incredibly useful chart that gives you all the specifics on each of the 40 choices for quick reference and to make your ground cover selection process even easier. Whether you want to replace the entire lawn or just reduce the amount of land dedicated to turf, Groundcover Revolution will help you usher in a new and improved idea of what a beautiful lawn should be. Groundcover Revolution is available now wherever you buy books, including Amazon.com and Bookshop.org.
Andrew Bunting, Vice President of Horticulture at the Pennsylvania Horticulture Society, met with several members of the garden media to fill us in on the background of the Philadelphia Flower Show, give us some fun facts, and answer our questions. As you can hear, my voice is shot from a weekend at the flower show, so I'm going to let Andrew do the rest of the talking.
So we have a new lecture series, new of last year, second year this year, called Know to Grow, and some of you have lectured for that. This year, Lamonda and the Great Grow Along is a sponsor and has taken over the curation of the last 3 days of speakers, which is awesome. Yeah, so that's like a great addition to the show. Over the years, we've had different kind of educational opportunities. We had for years the Gardener's Studio, which I'm sure Art presented at. I did for years. But it was in the middle of the show floor. It was a little hard to hear. So really what the Know to Grow is modeled after the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival, which they're 4 days. They have 130 lectures, like 5 simultaneous events going on throughout the show. We actually have 2 venues. We have Know to Grow, 3 or 4 lectures a day, and then the members lounge, we have 1 lecture a day. So every year we have returning designers, especially in the floral, landscape, and education exhibits. We try to have new people every year if we can. We bring in designers locally, nationally, internationally. I really like the educational exhibits, which are, a few high schools and colleges, and it's pretty impressive what they do. Well, almost everything that's on exhibit in the show gets judged. The major exhibits were judged this morning, 7 to 9. A panel of 3 judges per group: floral, landscape, education, and then endless panels over in competitive classes. I mean, really, probably dozens, if not 100 judging panels, I would guess. In these exhibits, they can get, over there, you can only get 1 blue ribbon per kind of class. Here, we can give out as many golds as we want, but there is only 1 best of show for each of the 3 classes, and those will be unveiled, because it's a flower show, people do want flowers. So we've had exhibits that are maybe a little bit more naturalistic, maybe more heavy on foliage or whatever. But if there's not flowers, that's kind of the first comment we get. Like, in any case, they might even come into this space and say, where are all the flowers? Even though there's obviously lots of flowers. This exhibit, the entrance garden, we design with our own in-house staff. So there's a flower show team that works at PHS. There's about 15 full-time people that work on the that is their job. They work on the flower show every week of the year. Some flower shows we're, working on exhibitors, and that can take a few years for that to happen. So once this is finished, they'll rest a little bit and then kind of launch into 2026 flower show. But then all PHS staff, there's no exemption. You have to work the flower. You have to do something. I would say about 110 full-time. There's quite a few part-time, and then we hire dozens of part-time people just to work the show. The flower show has 3,500 volunteers. They're critical to the success of the show. Yes, yeah, we have. If you ever Art's a volunteer. Probably any of you that pass or judge or do whatever for PHS, we consider them a volunteer. They have to sign up. It's called Volunteer Hub. Once you're in there, you can kind of tick off what you're interested in: flower show, tree planting, community gardens, whatever. So then when we have opportunities come up, we can email you, and you're kind of in the system. So we have 2 full-time people that just manage our volunteers. And it used to be that the volunteers only were at the flower show. Now we've really expanded volunteer opportunities throughout the organization. HS will be 200 years old in 2027. The flower show started 2 years later in 1829. So, we have some anniversaries coming up, plus the anniversary of the country next year. So I'm sure that'll somehow be articulated in the flower show. We really ask that exhibitors put names on their plants. We want the flower show exhibits to obviously inspire people about gardening and horticulture, but we want this to be an educational event as well. And they get judged on, part of the criteria is obviously design and plantsmanship and all of that, but also labeling as a part of it. Our judges are kind of judging on the merit of the exhibits, but there's another, I would say at least 20 awards that are given out, like PLNA gives out an award. This year, the RHS has a new award. We're kind of in the infancy of trying to figure out what a relationship with them might be. We probably send at least a few people to Chelsea every year. We have lots of relationships that really also make the flower show successful. We have we're doing a tour this year for the Philadelphia Society for the Promotion of Agriculture. So this is a society, one of the founding members was Benjamin Franklin, and it's been going since then, promoting, back then there was actually farms in Philadelphia, but that group is kind of broadening their scope to really look at horticulture, as part of agriculture. Today, I took around a group. There's an interesting publication in New Jersey called Gardener News. It's a newspaper. It gets published monthly. It gets distributed for free in certain grocery stores and lots of garden centers in New Jersey. It's like an old school newspaper, but it's like, 40 pages. Even has color. I do a monthly article. So the editor, Tom Castronovo, he came today and he brought Secretary of Agriculture for New Jersey, Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, head of the New Jersey Farm Bureau, assistant head of the New Jersey Farm Bureau, some significant New Jersey agriculture people. Do you know what the number 1 agricultural crop by far is in New Jersey? No. You guys should all know this. Nursery crops, horticulture. Turf is also big, sod. In fact, they said the Eagles play on New Jersey sod. That's why they won, right? But just another aside with that group, the relatively new Secretary of Agriculture for New Jersey is a graduate of Delaware Valley University in horticulture. And his master's thesis was on flower shows. So I asked him for a copy. He wrote it way before there was computers, so he's not sure if he has a copy. But in any case, we're trying to build out relationships like that. Great grow-alongs, a great new relationship. So, all those are, exciting. There's always, I think, new opportunities. Sponsors, they kind of come and go for, probably all economic reasons. We had, for 23 years, we had Subaru is a major sponsor, and they got a new U.S. Subaru president, and while they still believe in the environment and, a lot of their values align with our values, they wanted to go in a little different direction. Traditionally we've had a car, a healthcare organization, and a bank as the major sponsors. But Bartlett Tree Care Company has been a sponsor every year for 103 years at the flower show. And we've had Waldorf Orchids, who's one of our exhibitors. They've been an exhibitor for I think 80. Robertson's Flora. Yes, she was here. She was here. Incognito. Well, not incognito, but no, I think just her. I mean, maybe he was incognito and nobody saw him. Yeah, somebody said there was some around. I mean, when somebody like that visits, only like, yeah, like our CEO knows, nobody else knows. I don't even know how they, like Martha came. She was at the Galanthus Gala 2 years ago, Martha Stewart, and she came in through some loading dock, and they met up with the CEO and Seth, who's a VP. And so I guess there's ways to do that if you're somebody important. What's that? Right. But she did come in kind of incognito.
Footage for the major landscape.
Right. There's kind of different. So the tree lines design, the one with all the roots and the branches and the nice pool, that's 2,000 square feet. That's kind of the biggest. And then kind of over in this corner is a Mark Cook and the one adjacent to it. They're both a Pete Irwin. They're both 1,500 square feet.
They seem to be in that space also every year.
Yeah.
They can pick that or no?
Yeah, so they've been in the show several years now. I think that I don't know. I think there's kind of probably some preferential hierarchy. We try to, so the way like a new exhibitor would come to the show is they would come to the show and say, I'm interested in exhibiting. That's one way we might get an exhibitor. We're not going to just take anybody. They still have to be vetted. Or we see somebody we like at Chelsea or Singapore Garden Show or wherever, or even like Kelly Norris. It was like I saw him somewhere, probably at a bar, had a conversation, and I probably said, oh, you should exhibit at the Philadelphia Flower Show, and that kind of piqued his interest. And, a couple of years later, he was here. So, when it gets serious, then we start talking about square footage. Like, is it, if they're kind of tipping the toe into it, maybe something smaller, like 400 or 500 square feet. 400 is kind of the smallest we would do out there. If they're an educational institution, they could go in the back corner. So that's kind of how it starts. But to put on a Philadelphia Flower Show exhibit takes, an idea, talent. If you're not a company that does landscape contracting, you have to find somebody to kind of build it for you. The hardest part is, where do the plants come from? All these plants aren't flowering this time of year. So if you find a special nursery or a grower that's willing to do kind of this real specialty work, and there aren't many that either know how to do it or want to do it. Luckily, it is kind of in between, like, your poinsettias and kind of your Christmas crops and maybe your spring annuals. So for some growers, they can fit it in. Like Peachtree Farms does a little bit. Almost all of this, well, a lot of the bigger stuff came from Landcraft, which has a place up on Long Island, but now they have a nice facility in Maryland. If you see small, like tiarellas or hellebores, some like spring crops, those have probably come from Quality Greenhouses, which is a mammoth grower about 150 miles west of here in Dillsburg. So some of that stuff comes from them. Some people can do it themselves, like Pete Irwin does his own forcing. When Stony Bank Nursery was in the show, they did their own forcing. Dyers probably did their own, maybe Waterloo. These are in the kind of years gone by. Yes. Yeah, there's some internal funding. We like the Chelsea model where it's maybe a major sponsor, and then the materials and plants and everything are sponsored by nurseries, stone companies. That's a really good model, because then it's financially, it's all external to PHS. Right now, it's kind of I would say a hybrid. All the competitive classes, that expense is all on the exhibitor. Although I think for some of the little landscapes, like the 20 by 20s, they might get a subsidy of like a couple $1,000s to help. Because sometimes they have like a little building, or have to buy some plants and stuff like that. Schools would probably get a subsidy of some sort. Yeah. But even with the subsidy, if you figure out your labor hours, and, I'm going to guess that it's maybe not even a break-even proposition, but people do the flower show. One, they either want to really commit to, the thing called the Philadelphia Flower Show, which is this epic horticultural event, or they like Kelly. It was a really good example. Kelly Norris, he has used it to leverage who he is and really like promote his business, because at the time he was kind of transitioning from the Greater Des Moines Botanic Garden to his own practice. So, it's not, maybe somebody comes up and says, oh, I love that, do one of those in my backyard. I think maybe that happens a little bit. I think it's more nowadays like we do a lot of promotion as well. So you get the full power of PHS's communications team. And for the flowers, even though we have probably 15 full-time communicators or people on the communications team, PR, videographers, photographers, etc., we probably hire another, I don't know how many external people to work on the flower show as well. So they get all that. They get, a lot of or various types of promotion, like you guys, you'll see it, you'll write about it, you'll post about it. So they get all of that. Yes. Yep.
Are you allowed to say dates and theme yet?
I could, but I don't even know. I mean, there are people that know, but I'm not one of them. You'll have to ask somebody else. Some of the ones I like, I really like Apiary Studio. They're the ones who did the clotheslines. And they've done, this is their fourth show in a row. They're a very small firm. They're two people, Martha Keene and Hans Hesseline, and you might know that last name. Their parents started Pleasant Run Nursery in New Jersey, and he's actually fifth generation professional horticulturist. His mother's family was at Princeton Nurseries. They're always very innovative. I like that they don't have a lot of capacity, but are willing to do a show every year. And Mark Cook is always, his is right on the other side of the curtain, kind of modern tropical plants. Iftar Ahmed, Tree Lines Design, that's incredible. Laurel Brook, really good. I mean, there's, it's probably easier questions, which one don't I like? But I'm not going to say that amongst a bunch of communicators. Yeah, I mean, the goal is to have, Susan Cohen. I love hers as well. I like that every year she does like a real kind of boutique design, a little garden space that you could imagine like replicating in your own, really good scale. Like it seems like a kind of a homeowner scale. Well, Temple is always top notch. Michael LaForno is their professor, and he's been involved with the flower show for decades. But Mercer County Community College in New Jersey, they always do top-notch job. I mean, these are like either junior college kids or high school kids doing this. I mean, obviously they have a teacher that's kind of leading, but they make the kids do the work. Right? Yeah, Del Val's pretty cool. And somebody said earlier, like, did they work with the clothesline people? Because the clouds are cotton and the clothes are, I guess, presumably made out of cotton, but I'm going to guess not. Programs are supported by the proceeds of the flower show, and really it's almost everything we do, especially our Healthy Neighborhoods program. So that would be community gardens, street tree plantings, cleaning, greening vacant lots, workforce development, and then to some degree our public gardens and landscapes division. And the flower show is, one of our biggest programs, but it's also one of our biggest fundraisers. So, we bring a lot of sponsors that bring in dollars, and all that money goes to support all of our community-based programs. PHS today, almost 200 years old, is about community-based horticulture and connecting people to plants in a variety of ways, and really using horticulture to impact and hopefully change people's lives. We do a lot through economic development, job creation, building workforces, training people. And a lot of this is done in parts of the city where there's all sorts of equity issues, especially, and including, I should say, green equity issues, lack of access to parks, lack of access to tree canopy, lack of access to community gardens, lack of access to fresh food. Where it says Hamilton Horticourt, that area is the competitive classes. So that's like the Horticourt, which are the individual, where people bring in individual plants to be judged against each other. And there's probably 200 classes of plants over there. But then there's other artistic classes like different floral classes, front scoops, miniature scenes, storefronts, press plants, photography, and on and on and on. And almost, I would say, all of competitive classes are run by a volunteer core that has different levels of hierarchy that bring in new contestants or new exhibitors, and then they also run all aspects of competitive classes, from bringing in volunteers, organizing the volunteers, organizing judging, all of it. And then it's ultimately overseen by some PHS employees.
Trees are as strong this year as they have been.
It seems, yes. I mean, people mostly pre-enter their plants, so we have a sense of how many thousands of entries there are. They can also, if you had a plant on your windowsill and you want to bring it in, you can do what's called a post-entry. It looks as full as I remember it, and I see quite a few plants I've never seen before, some incredible bromeliads and other things. Yeah, I think that, we call the Horticourt the beating heart of the Philadelphia Flower Show, because there's so much activity. There's more flowers or more volunteer activity there than anywhere else at the show. So it's, and a lot of shows don't have that. Like, I don't think Northwest Flower and Garden Festival has these competitive classes. I was talking to some guys earlier from Plant Con. They have a little version of that. Chelsea doesn't have this. So I don't think Singapore does. So it's kind of one thing that really makes our show especially unique.
Thank you again to Andrew Bunting, Marianne Willburn, Louise Clarke, and Peggy Riccio for sharing their experiences and opinions, thoughts, and facts about the Philadelphia Flower Show 2025. I hope you are able to attend it in person yourself. You can find out more information about the show at phsonline.org. The show runs from March 1st through March 9th, 2025 at the Pennsylvania Convention Center in downtown Philadelphia, PA. And I will be there again on Sunday, March 9th, speaking on the Know to Grow stage. I hope to see you at my talk and hope you have a wonderful flower show experience. GardenDC will be back after this short break.
In the book The Urban Garden by Kathy Jentz and Teri Speight, you'll find dozens of inspiring and creative ways to grow flowers, shrubs, vegetables, herbs, and other plants in small spaces and with a limited budget. Whether you want to grow on a balcony, rooftop, front stoop, or a tiny urban patio, turn your growing dreams into reality and build a gorgeous and unique garden that showcases your personal style while still being functional and productive. With the genius ideas and resourceful tactics found here, you'll be maximizing yields and beauty from every square inch of your space. No matter what you grow, the 101 amazing growing ideas found in the urban garden will turn your tiny urban yard into a treasure trove of green you'll be proud to share with family and friends. Buy your copy today at your local retail bookseller or order it online now at Amazon.com or bookshop.org.
Thank you for listening to GardenDC. You can become a listener supporter for as little as 99 cents a month by going to the supporter link in our show notes or directly to podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/GardenDC/support. Another way to support this podcast is to subscribe to our monthly digital publication, Washington Gardener Magazine. To do so, go to WashingtonGardener.com or WashingtonGardener.blogspot.com. You can find Washington Gardener on social media at WDC Gardener on Twitter or X, Instagram, and Pinterest, and on Facebook at Washington Gardener Magazine. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Please take a minute to share us on social media with #GardenDC so other gardeners can find us too.